Hey guys, your boy 4ID, and I'm back again with another episode of 4 Talks. So today I'm going to let you know something. In order for you to create a world of your own through your art or through your own creation, you have to isolate yourself from the world that you're already existing. This might sound very paradoxical because obviously you have to be in the world in order to create the world of your own. But at the same time, you have to remove yourself from this particular world that you're existing. And one of the things that you have to think about is consider all the creative geniuses that you've seen in the world today, or the creative geniuses that you've seen in time generally. Like, let me say, whether it's Albert Einstein, whether it is Leonardo da Vinci, whether it is Michael Jackson, whether whoever the artist you can consider in your head right now, they always had a time in their lives, or a short period or an extended period of time, where they were most likely isolated from the world, and they either were not known to many people, or they were just in a space working consistently for a long period of time, being forced to work or just working by themselves. And one of the things is, okay, you watch many movies and you see a lot of people that kind of have that same storyline, where they always push this trope of the struggling artist, the misunderstood artist, or the misunderstood creative, the struggling inventor, the hungry artist, all of these things. And you think about the artist in a room like Van Gogh, like staying in the dark asylum, working and etching his artworks and scratching everything out. And you think of maybe somebody like an inventor that is stuck in a laboratory covered in like smoke, and he most likely doesn't have any friends around. Or you think about the musical genius who is just in the space working on the piano for like different days and just coming back to it consistently, and not really having a social life per se. And you think of those things, and you most likely think of them in terms of movies, and you think of them in terms of the sensation of it, like, okay, this person is very good and this is a storyline that I would love to tell myself. But so guys, if you've been watching this video and you actually enjoy it, please just subscribe to this channel. I'm trying to get to 100. Like, 100 is kind of an easy thing, but I don't know why I've not gotten to that point yet. But I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers, so please subscribe to this channel, and I will see you next time. For real, if you're actually watching my videos, please leave a like, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to comment. Leave a comment, just say hi. I'll reply your comments. Just say hi, share the video to whoever you think needs the video, and it will be very useful for me. So please, thank you very much. I don't know what to do, but thank you very much. But at the same time, when it gets to the point where you have to live this and you have to show this part of you, or actually replicate this thing that these people do, you don't really know how to replicate it, because it's a different world. Now we're living in a world where obviously we want to seclude ourselves from the outside world. We also isolate ourselves, but even when we isolate ourselves physically from the outside world, our mind is still not isolated. So you might be in your space right now and you don't have anybody around. Like, I personally don't have anybody around, but then you're still going through the whole dopamine spikes and the sensation of somebody who is stuck in a rave, or who is stuck in a crowd, or who is climbing a mountain, or doing a skydiving or something like that. Because you tend to always scroll your phone, you're always on your phone, you're always talking to like 10,000 people, 5 people, or whatever on your phone, and you're seeing different people's lives. So even in as much as we're not physically outside, we still tend to be outside in some ways, and that really goes against the concept of being creative. Because in order for you to actually be creative, you have to come to terms with being bored. You have to actually embrace boredom and quiet down your mind. And one of the reasons why you have to, as much as we don't want to consider the idea of being secluded or being isolated as something that is in line with being a creative genius, if you took out a chunk of creative geniuses, like 10% or 50% of all the creative geniuses randomly around the world, and you put them in a space, most of them will tell you the same thing, that they always had a time, or like I said, it's short time or an extended period of time where they had to be isolated from the world. And so it is almost like a common denominator to think that isolation is something that breeds art or breeds creativity, which may not necessarily be true or may not necessarily be the what we need in order to grow as a society. We actually need to be able to interact with different people. We have to step out of the world. So we need to talk to people, we need to build tribes, we need to build communities. But isolating yourself at a particular period of time tends to allow your mind do the work it has to do in order for you to create for the outside world. And so one thing you have to consider is that being isolated helps to guide your mind. It helps to guard your mind from the outside noise. It helps to guard your mind from other people's opinions. And then once you're able to guard your mind, you're able to heal your mind from every other thought that existed from or is influenced by other people. And once you're able to guard that mind and get those like ideas or get those remove yourself from that mind state, then you're able to create something for yourself. You're able to think for yourself. You're able to create something that is going to be helpful for the world to express. That said, there's one thing you have to understand, and that's that creativity or being a creative requires a sense of or a level of self-absorption, or it requires a level of self-importance. So it's not just enough for you to say, okay, I'm going to create something and I'm just working and I'm just right. No, you have to actually think like a creative. And in order for you to think like a creative, you have to see the world that you exist in and look at the world and say, I as a person have the power to affect this particular reality. And that's not something that everybody thinks about. Not everybody can say, I want to invent something that's going to affect the world, or I want to create something that's going to affect the world. Whether it is as an artist, whether it is as a musician, whether it is as a songwriter, writer, normal Georgeman or something, you have to think in a sense of a creative, as opposed to just a normal craftsman that is just replicating something that every other person has done. You have to think in the sense of, okay, I exist in this world and there is something that this world is missing that I have the power to create. And so in order for you to create this thing and have that self-importance, you have to remove yourself from the mind state of every other person that exists in that same world. So you cannot necessarily think communally. You can't really think, as much as community is important, you can't really think communally when you want to become a creative. You have to think in sense of alone. You have to think by yourself. You have to think isolated. And so removing the noise is very important. Healing your mind is very important. You have to get to a point where you remove all those you remove all those thoughts, and you get egotistical enough for you to think that, okay, I can affect the world. So once you remove that thought, you can now create your own mindset and create ideas that help you to become the kind of person that can create the original thought that is going to be expressed in the world and is going to affect the world. So I recently hopped on a call with a friend of mine, and we were having conversations about random things, and I think it got to a point where he started to tell me, I think we started to have conversations about the state of the country, and I really started getting personal about it. I started to complain about the way the country was going, the level of insecurity, the bad governance, the bad healthcare, the everything that was supposed to be a problem for me, and not necessarily for me but just for the country in general. And I remember just complaining, and it started getting so personal that I felt like it started to look like I was feeling it. And even when I wasn't necessarily experiencing every single thing that I was talking about, I was feeling every of the problems, I was feeling every of the issues. And he had to call me back and tell me like, yo, you're kind of getting carried away with the mindset, or getting carried away with the problems of the world, and in a sense you have to think selfishly in order to be creative. And that really stuck with me, because it's very easy for you to say, okay, I want to be a part of the community and I want to be patriotic and I want to love the country that I come from, which is very good, like I said. But at the same time, you have to understand that in order for you to get to a point where you can actually affect the world that you're coming from, or you can actually affect the society that you exist in, you have to seclude yourself from that society and build yourself, build your own mindset, build your own opinions, build your own thought processes, just so that you don't get to a point where you're just blabbing about things that you've seen in the news that you probably haven't confirmed yet or anything. And when you bring that to the point of being a creative, in a sense, like I said, you have to isolate yourself from that world. You have to remove yourself from that world and not really exist in the same reality that other people exist in. You have to, because I'm also of the belief that most of what we see in the world is an extension of our own imaginations and our own mental reality. That's what we're creating in the future. So most times, because I actually thought about that, I felt like, oh, I was missing out, or I was missing out on the good that can exist because I was constantly thinking of the bad. So recently I just said, okay, I'm going to remove myself, and that was kind of what he advised me to do. Try and fix the one that you can fix. Try and work on the things that you can work on. Show up to the things that you can show up to, and hopefully you get to a point where you are able to actually affect the world in the way you want to. And so that kind of changed my mindset in the way I approach or look at the stories that I hear on my phone, or the story that I see on my phone, which really actually helps you as a creative. Because like I said, you have to isolate yourself, you have to remove yourself from that world and actually build an idea for yourself, build a mindset, build a thought process that is your own, and get accustomed to being bored. Once you're able to be bored and allow your mind to speak, your mind begins to trust you slowly and trust you enough to know that, okay, I can actually reimagine something, and I can, through this body of yours, tell a story. I can express myself, I can tell something. And that's when you start to get the flow state ideas. That's when you start to get the groundbreaking ideas that is going to actually change the world. So it doesn't really have to be you stepping out on the road and being the activist that you might actually want to be, but at the same time, if you're going to be a creative, just remove yourself from whatever world that you're existing in now, and get to a point where you can tell a story and affect the world by creating something. So get used to being bored, get used to being by yourself, be alone, be on your own most of the times, and that's going to help you to build a state of mind, or to build a routine that actually helps you create better. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you like this video, this is just a short thought process, but just let me know what you think about this one, and I'll probably drop more on this topic in the next video. So like I said, thank you very much for listening. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment, and I'll make sure to do better next time. Peace.